Hello, everyone. I see the clock is ticking here. So it looks like, yes, we are live. I would like to say hello to everyone who is joining us today, because today I truly have the most incredible roundtable I could ask for. And I'm always thinking how those amazing experts even agree to be on my channel. So I'm very, very grateful for your time today. And I have Andrei Martyanov, who is an expert on Russian military and naval issues, and of course, Larry Johnson, who's a former analyst at the CIA. Welcome back to my channel, gentlemen.
Pleasure to
Always
be here.
a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being with me. And before we start with my questions, I would like to say hello to, I have one moderator, I think, Deborah. If Ronnie is here, thank you for joining. Also, just to make sure, please join me on Locals. You have the link down below. On Rumble, you can find me as well, my mailing list. And if you want to see more of Moscow, follow me on Instagram. All the links to both Andrei and Larry, you already have attached below this live stream. So we are good to go. Well, main focus of this live is the latest NATO summit. And I'm sure we're gonna go a little bit on the sides because it's all connected. However, I want to start with one very simple question. Sweden will be joining NATO, right? And here is the question. As Hillary, or I should say Hillary Clinton would say, what difference does it make?
Yeah,
Good question. None whatsoever.
right. It may give other NATO members better access to some Swedish saunas, perhaps, during the winter months. But that's about it. I mean, militarily, the Swedes are a non-entity.
Yeah,
So it's crazy.
Agree with Larry completely. They are insignificant. And well, just to give you an example, the whole tank force of Sweden is whole 120 tanks. So in real combat, that thing probably won't last for a week. I mean, if they decide to do suicide themselves. And some people, I just want to elaborate a little bit, if you don't mind. They talk about like, hello?
Yep.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, for some reason I disappeared. Well, they want to, Anya disappeared. Okay. Anya, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, and the point is that even Gripen, which is a good, modern fighter, it's a good-looking machine, but even that, they use even the engines they use, despite the fact that they call it a Swedish fighter. It's American engines, GE. They won't fly without American engines. So, and that's pretty much tells you all. So,
But on a serious note, there is a fee that every member state contributes to NATO, correct?
well, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, in theory.
Okay.
In theory.
In theory. So now, what is this fee, do you know, as far as Sweden joining? And is it just like a mental thing, really? Because physically they are not a threat. So is this kind of mental that this is closer again to Russia because we have the Scandinavian countries joining NATO?
No, I'd say so. It's not even a good psychological warfare move. It is, if nothing else, reflects the desperation, the growing desperation of the West. The only reason that NATO is expanding is that NATO cannot produce the number of troops and weapons that on its own. So that's why they keep having to grow. It's just an odd form of recruitment, but like with it's the equivalent of lowering recruitment standards. Because think back a year and a half ago at the start of the special military operation, Ukraine really had the second largest army in NATO, even though it wasn't part of NATO. Turkey was number one, and after the United States, it would have been Turkey and then Ukraine. I think Ukraine's army was far larger than France, Germany, and the UK combined. So it's, NATO is one that has outlived its prime, is I think the best way to say it.
Okay, so here is, on that note, a question that Scott Ritter was bringing this up lately in my live stream and on other interviews. And I will be quoting, unfortunately, another evil person. I just say it. You don't have to, gentlemen, but I can. So Soros.
No.
In 1993, from the New World Order, like what else, article, he said, the United States would not be called upon to act as the policeman of the world. When it acts, it will act in conjunction with others. Incidentally, the combination of the manpower from Eastern Europe with the technical capability of NATO would greatly enhance the military potential of the partnership because it would reduce the risk of body bags for NATO countries. So here is my question. Stoltenberg, I cannot look at him honestly. I can't even listen when he speaks. But I listen. He said, whatever it takes, again, right? Whatever it takes, support Ukraine. So now the body bags, and it's not funny, but do you think those body bags now will be coming from other Eastern European countries, in your opinion, after Ukraine, or there is more body bags, which is horrific, coming from Ukraine, and then other Eastern European Union countries?
Larry, you go.
Go ahead, Andrei. You take that one for starters.
The first thing which I want to say is George Soros is many things. So, you know what, guys? Larry, can you go? I'm waiting for very important documents to arrive. Okay, can you go? I'll be right back.
Yeah. No, I'll handle it.
I have somebody.
So right now, what you've had on you is the mercenaries, the foreign mercenaries from Poland, from a few from Romania, some from Spain, that are dying, and I'm not sure they're all getting into body bags, and I'm not sure they're all getting sent home. The ones that are likely to wind up in body bags, if this conflict escalates and expands beyond what it is, will be the Poles and the Latvians and the Lithuanians. In the military, there's a definition of defeat. You are defeated as an army if you attack and cannot penetrate and drive your foe back. And then if you're in defensive positions, you're attacked and you retreat. Well, by that definition, the Ukrainians are a defeated army already. They have no ability to sustain an offensive, and they have no ability to push the Russians anywhere out of the Ukrainian territory that is now under Russian law and authority. So the only thing that's left is for these for Poland to intervene if it's going to try, and the outcome is going to be the same. The Poles don't have some magic skill or magic ability or impenetrable armor that they can then throw themselves into the battle and survive. The Russians just have a decided advantage in manpower and firepower, as well as air coverage, and in every category. There is not one category that NATO forces can put on the battlefield that's going to be superior to what Russia already has in place.
Yeah.
Andrei, so do you think they're gonna use more Eastern European people?
They will try, that's for sure. But as I already stated, Larry beautifully described it. Actually, what they're gonna do? I mean, you cannot basically go against the basic physics and mathematics of the correlation of forces there. And it doesn't matter how many countries join in. Just to give you an example, probably at this stage, while we can kind of assume some numbers, but even from Sergei Shoigu's latest statement 2 days ago about the performance of Russian military-industrial complex. This is beyond the industrial capability of whole European Union combined, and even not NATO combined. Just to give you a basic reference point, in terms of the high precision and standoff weapons, Russia outproduces the whole NATO, United States, including probably not just 3-4 times, but probably order of magnitude. The expenditure of the high precision weapons, be them ATGMs like anti-tank guided missiles, all kinds of those things, ranging from good old Kornet to the latest ones like Vikharov, Hermes, and these are all, either laser guided or shoot and forget, fire and forget. And so you look at this type of weaponry, it's just beyond even the reach of Pentagon in the best years. Wall Street Journal yesterday published the article. We discussed it yesterday with Vera. Larry probably remembers, and that in real life, if United States gets involved, let alone European lapdogs, it will have probably day or two of the high precision weapons. After that, they're going to be gone. Nothing left. How are you going to fight it? Just free dropping, free falling bombs. So. And that brings me to the point I started thinking that it was the courier with the important documents we're waiting. It turned out to be the Macy's delivery for my wife. Oh, gosh. So, and George Soros maybe...
Andrei, that's very important. It's actually very important. Happy wife, happy life. Okay?
Yeah, I know. And the issue was, of course... that George Soros is many things. He might be a shrewd speculator on the financial market, or he might be a shrewd financier, or what have you, ideologue. But military competent man, he is not. He won't know what he is talking about because he has zero background in it. And as many people in the think tanks and leaders like Soros, or recently retired from Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haas, and all those people, including Kissinger. How this relic is still around, I don't know. And they have
100 years old. 100 years old.
Yeah, it didn't add him wisdom or, didn't add anything to him. And when you look at this, these guys, they don't even understand what modern warfare is. They literally have no clue. They have zero military background and zero intelligence background, serious intelligence background. So there you go.
So when they say at this point, whatever it takes, what is this whatever at this point?
Yeah,
it's empty rhetoric. They're saying what they think needs to be said in front of a camera, so that they don't frighten off their respective publics. But the reality is, what can they do? They can't say, okay, we're going to open our warehouses and give you all of our artillery rounds, because they've already done that. Okay, no more to give. We're going to give you some more anti-tank guided missiles. Well, those have been ineffective. Oh yeah, we give you more tanks. Well, they've actually about given all the tanks that they can. And the part of the problem is they keep giving different variety of tanks. So instead of having just one type of tank with one logistics tail for repair and maintenance, they've got like 3 or 4 or 5 different varieties, which becomes a logistics nightmare in and of itself, much less finding technicians who are qualified to work on all those different systems. I mean, just practical stuff like that. The only thing they right now have to offer are F-16s. Great. Who's going to fly them? Because the training process for that is going to be a minimum of 6 months. And unless they put NATO pilots in it, and then NATO pilots are going to get shot down by Russia. Andrei heard me use this line yesterday. He got a laugh, but I'll use it again. We'll be able to judge when the F-16s enter theater, because on the London bookie route where they place bets, they will start offering a betting line on how long will the F-16 last before it's shot down.
Plus, Russia, actually, Mr. Putin and Mr. Lavrov on record 2 days ago. They said, okay, you give them F-16. Okay, that's fine, but we're going to treat it because actually F-16 is designed to carry the free-falling B-61, I believe, nuclear ordnance.
Yeah.
And in this case, as Putin on record and others, they say, we're going to treat it as the nuclear threat. And so in this case, we're going to strike the bases where they will be located, not just shoot them down while they are in the airspace of Ukraine. And that obviously brings us to immediately to the issue of Poland and Romania. You know, in Poland, that will be Rzeszów. I think so. Rzeszów is the main airport right now, which is called the Jump airport. They fly AVAX there, the Global Hawks from there, and all kinds of things of this nature. So, but I mean, definitely. But again, so what are you going to do? Let's say this. Obviously, I don't think so. They are that stupid as to place a nuclear ordnance. First, it's free falling. In order to deploy it, you need to first to fly into the to the objective. You know, so that is pretty much precluded because they will be shut down on the approaches. You know, either by Russian Air Force or let alone air defense. So
here, Andrei, can I just add to what you just said, because no one pronounces Rzeszów as good as you. So. Thank you. Rzeszów, that airport has been used for transportation of all this military equipment in the last over a year of this conflict. And I'm not sure if it's already closed, but I know it will be completely closed because it was not prepared for all that heavy machinery. So now they have to rebuild the entire belt, the entire airport. So the airport is actually not even ready, Andrei, as far as doing anything with those planes. And as far as F-16s, I came across an article a while ago that there is a plan, or maybe they will put this already in action. They will be training Polish pilots to fly on those. Of course.
No, I mean,
what else?
They wanted, the point is the first Poland is already involved. Okay, when everybody knows that there are majority of the volunteers, so to speak, Poland probably is number one. Then there's the United States, Canada, and all that stuff, and there are some Germans and Scandinavians. There were 11,000, as Ministry of Defense reported 2 days ago. There was 11,500, I believe, volunteers from the get-go. They have been reduced by half because the others were killed. We know there are many cemeteries in Poland for the volunteers, you know. So, I mean, if they want to throw, again, more people to the meat grinder, well, they certainly can do that. But what is going to get them? For Poland, from present what's the administration in Poland, for present political class, it is all good business, you know, it's good going. But Russians actually, they're even their entertainment sites, but also the political sites reported about 3-4 days ago. The post was called the Polls of the Healthy People. There are a bunch of Polish soccer fans who actually hate Ukraine, and some of them gather money and support for Russian army. So yeah, there you go figure, you know. So no, I'm not kidding you. It's you can go to the Polish site NDP. It's a famous, and yeah, you will see yourself on or the Legia Warsaw, or you know, there are a bunch of guys standing there, banderas and asshole and things of this nature, banner, and they gather resources, money, and equipment for Russian army. So there you go. So evidently Poland is not completely mad. It's the political class which is completely bananas, you know. So
I absolutely agree, but there is a problem with this too, because lately, you know, we had 80th anniversary of Wołyń homicide.
Yeah.
And what they are doing now, Andrei, which can be very dangerous, you know, they love this divide and conquer. So they might create the issue within the country between Polish and Ukrainians, because the level of being not in agreement with our new guests, let's put this way, it's already, like boiling pot.
Yeah, I know.
So, it has to be like controlled, because if people lose it, then that's all they are waiting for. So then we have another state of emergency, or whatever they want to call it, and they hold on to power. Another reason. But I want to ask you to finalize on the NATO here. So what we really can expect after this meeting? Is there anything, in your opinion, what kind of harm they can still create after this meeting?
You want me to respond to that? I think
Yes,
where they're headed right now. Just 3 days before the NATO meeting convened, Biden, in a secret meeting with military and national security advisors, made the decision to authorize the deployment of what they call individual ready reserve and secret reserve. It's not a lot of people. From a military standpoint, it's inconsequential, but it's highly important from a symbolic standpoint, because they're saying that they're being deployed to provide reinforcements for Operation the European Resolve, which is about fighting Russia. That's number one. But that's not all they did. What has not been announced in the press is that they have also decided to deploy 3 armored brigades, so roughly 15,000 troops, again, into Poland and Romania. The specific locations have not been determined yet, but they're doing that. The United States is also positioning B-52s in Alaska, where they're normally stationed in North Dakota. So they're moving them closer to Russia, closer to China, again, as a symbolic sort of saber rattling. So all of this, let's call it meager muscle flexing, because it's not like there's actual real power behind it. It's like the skinny guy flexing his biceps and you can barely see it. But it's coming at a time when Ukraine is losing catastrophically. We're not talking about minor setbacks. We're talking about the utter destruction of the Ukrainian army. I think that is what is taking place right now. And NATO doesn't have an answer for it. So they're almost looking to try to provoke a response from the West. And Andrei and I talked about this previously, that the problem is the West believes its own lies about Russia. They keep telling themselves that the Russian military is inadequate, that it's inferior, that it's poorly trained, that it's poorly led, that non-commissioned officers are a bunch of morons, drunken morons, buffoons, that they don't have good weapon systems, they don't have good coordination. And the problem is the West now believes that. They genuinely believe that. And that's what is important for people to understand in this conversation. That when you mistakenly believe something and act on it, you're likely to do some things that you wouldn't do. It's like if I say, oh, that stove, the oven top, the stove top, it's not hot, go ahead and touch it. But you can see that the flame's on. When you touch it, you're going to get burned. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen within the next 2 or 3 weeks with the NATO countries. One of them, whether it's Poland, Lithuania, the United States, they're going to act upon their mistaken belief that Russia is weak and cowardly. And they're going to touch the hot stove and it's going to burn them and burn them terribly.
So I want to ask both of you, do you think that that plan that was established a long time ago to have this buffer zone in Eastern Europe, and Poland was that part, that would be in a way convenient to Russia to have peace in mind? And I'm saying this, I'm trying not to put emotions behind it, even though I love my country still. Even the Polish-speaking government acts like, madhouse. Do you think they're gonna do this? Do you think they will sacrifice Poland in this situation right now?
They are already doing this to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And again, the whole issue, which, by the way, Soros in some sense made sense, if you wish, that, yeah, they don't want to throw American GIs into the meat grinder. They already had enough reputation destroyed of the U.S. armed forces and American military industrial complex by parading it as completely ineffective, and the technology is absolutely not designed to fight the real war. So in this case, yeah, they would prefer their Polish, Czech, or Romanian body bags coming back. But how to put it, people in I agree with Larry, political top of the United States, as I'm on record, I write books about it. They do believe in this trash and garbage about Russia. Because they absolutely have no background in anything tangible in what their lives. The only thing they do is just basically spew BS, for the media and try to re-elect themselves or abuse sinecures in some think tanks. That's what it is. Plus, there is a serious issue now about the academic and professional preparation of America officer corps, and it is well recorded that there is a declining standard for many decades now. But what we have to understand is that, they would like to throw Poles, Romanians, anybody into the Russian meat grinder in order to, as they think, it will destabilize Russia. And somehow, because Putin is about to die, he falls from the ladder steps, hits his head, he cannot speak, somebody else is running Russian government, and think of this stupid nation. And they would think that they can't create Russia, or what they call in the quagmire. This is the only strategy they have, because if they go all in, people in Pentagon know how it's going to end up. United States, for example, can lose its Atlantic fleet, for example, if it goes down to this, So nobody wants that. Neither Russians nor Americans. I mean, military professionals. But political class, yeah, they bear no responsibility for what they do. They are completely corrupt, and they will reelect. Look at this genocidal maniac, Lindsey Graham. People of South Carolina reelect this jerk, who is a war criminal, and he's full-blown certified terrorist supporter and war criminal. He is still elected. Okay? So there you go. And these people, they are not fixable. But you can talk on the level with the intel and military professionals, and I'm pretty sure something of this nature is still going on there.
Let me just follow up real quick. That I don't know if it was Petraeus or one of the other knucklehead generals that are appearing on television, but they were calling for using B-52s to bomb Russian defensive lines as a credible strategy. Now, I could understand my 7-year-old grandson recommending something like that, because he has no experience, no knowledge, and he could say something completely silly. That's what children do. These men are not children. They're supposedly experienced military professionals, and they think they're fighting against the North Vietnamese before the North Vietnamese got Russian air defense systems. It is, Anya, we can't. We're trying to deal rationally and logically with a bunch of crazy people, and I don't think we can.
But this is the problem, Larry, because they act like crazy, and the more crazy they act, the more people die.
Yes.
And that's why we don't really know how those lunatics, how far they will go, because they don't care if someone is dead or alive. They just care about themselves. So those troops that are in Poland or coming to Poland, well, some are already US troops. What do you think, Larry, how they will use them? Like, what will be exactly their purpose in that region?
What you have right now are the 82nd Airborne in Poland, the 101st Airborne in Romania. These are light infantry troops. They don't carry heavy weapons. They don't carry tanks. If they got into an engagement with the Russian army, they would be like a speed bump that, the Russians would roll over. They would inflict some casualties on Russian troops, no doubt, but they'd be decimated. And I hope it does not come to that, but the candid reality is it's going to take a U.S. city or military base being hit by a Russian missile to wake the Americans up out of this deluded nightmare that they have built for themselves. Because now, we've never been attacked. In this country, we've never been attacked. Pardon?
Which city you think?
If I was going to be doing the targeting, I'd actually go for one of the military bases. So you'd go probably for McDill Air Force Base, the head of CENTCOM.
There are in Europe, in European, obviously, and there is a precedent. Don't forget the base in Middle East, in Kuwait, was hit by Iranians after CIA assassinated General Soleimani.
Yeah.
But I mean, take Bondsteel in Kosovo, for example. I mean, it's a very fat and interesting target, stationary, easy, and so yeah, it can happen. But again, we need to also keep in mind most of those crazes, especially those U.S. generals, which I agree with Larry, none of them ever defended the United States in their life. They don't know what it means to fight a real war. But we can go, and that's another thing which is kind of gives a little bit of hope. General Cavoli, 4-star general, the supreme commander of the NATO forces in Europe, he is on record actually in understanding the gravity of the situation when he in January went on record, and it was on record on number of those representatives of those think tanks, when he started his presentation with the 3 words, rather one word repeated 3 times: scale, scale, scale. And he said, U.S. Army doesn't know how to fight it. We have never been prepared to anything like this. Yeah. And that gives me hope. That means what? The operational level of Pentagon, at least some people of true weight. And General Cavoli obviously is a true weight. He's supreme commander of NATO forces, unlike this clown Petraeus. He is in fact in charge of what tentatively or theoretically could have been the major combined arms war in Europe. So he plans properly. Petraeus doesn't even know what it is to face the not only near peer or peer, the better peer enemy. And when Cavoli speaks, that means what? His staff understands that. His connections, his direct or chain of command in Pentagon understands that. Even Milley, once in a while, chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he has those lucid moments. Even recently, he drops the truth bomb, like among this crazy talk, he suddenly drops like, we don't want this. We're going to be destroyed, And again, it happened recently. So among military professionals, and whatever anybody says about Milley, he is military professional, okay? He obviously understands how to calculate operational constants, coefficients. He understands how planning is done. He graduated the General Staff and Command College in the Leavenworth, Kansas. So he's not complete moron, okay? He understands what war in this respect is. He knows U.S. capabilities, and he knows how they correlate. So there is this kind of whiff of the hope from them. And then again, let's imagine that some idiot in political top, obviously it's not going to be Sullivan, so I don't think so. A national security advisor power allows him. He's allowed to, do some terrorist act or false flag without informing president. But deployment of the nuclear deterrent or nuclear weapons is the prerogative of the supreme commander, which is the POTUS, of course, president of the United States. I think so. The American military may have its own opinion on that issue. even if to imagine that some idiot issues, well, we know who the idiot is or who runs him, issues this order. There are some indication that American military, and again, I'm on record, U.S. military is the last American institution where you can find some degree of competence. The rest, no way. There's nothing there. There's nobody to talk to. Only some people in Pentagon, maybe some people, I don't know, CIA, DIA maybe. So that's it.
Yeah, it's worth noting. So we're now, we've gone 11 months in 2022, and we're now approaching 7 months, almost 18 months into the special military operation. And over that 18-month period, there have been a number of former U.S. military personnel, Army and Marine principally, that that fought in Iraq, that fought in Afghanistan, and that have now fought in Ukraine. Not a single one of them has come out and said, "Oh man, this is a piece of cake. This is nothing like what we experienced in Afghanistan." No, they say the exact opposite. Every one of them is, "This is horrific. We've never experienced anything like this. It is beyond description," and they're getting the hell out. They're not saying, "And I'm signing back up for another 6 months." No, if they've survived, they're usually saying this as they're on their way out the door trying to get back home. And that's what Andrei has been, sort of prophetically talking about, that the United States has gotten accustomed to beating up on weaker opponents that couldn't punch back and made the same mistake they are now. They assumed that because they couldn't punch back that they were a bunch of incompetents without recognizing, they just didn't have the weapon system and training. But now you're up against a country that has the weapon system, that has the training, and that more importantly, has hundreds of years of military tradition of fending off invaders.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to ask you here about Ukrainian people specifically who are being forced to fight. Many of them, they broke their legs, intentionally, or other parts of their body, hands, not to be taken by force to fight. And they still take a lot of those people, even with, it's absolutely horrible when I watch those videos, how they go into their homes that are not allowed, and they want to pull those people out to throw them, to die. And then they don't even bury those bodies. How much longer, in your opinion, this will continue? Because there is, Ukraine is a big country, right? So we know there is part of Ukraine where people literally live their lives. They go to the nightclubs, they live their lives, like they know it's war, but they are not affected. So how much longer are they gonna do this to those people, in your opinion?
We have to start first with the very important definition. And this also ties in great with what Larry described about US servicemen returning. Russia is still not fighting the war. Russia fights specially military operation. God forbids if Russia will start fighting the war. The Ukraine will be wiped out. And I'm not talking about the nuclear weapons. I'm talking about the conventional weapons and Russia engaging with the full might. Don't forget, there are 500,000 extremely well-trained troops standing in the rear waiting for something in Russia, and extremely well equipped, extremely well-trained. And speaking about Ukrainian people, and just today, sadly, you will not find it on the YouTube. I'm sure that it will appear on the, what is this name, BitChute or whatever the name, and maybe somewhere.
Rumble Telegram. Yeah,
Rumble Telegram. Yeah, today a Kadyrov guys, brilliant commander, Abtial Audinov, the guy is absolutely heroic and, just brilliant tactician. They got these guys from one of the motor rifle battalions. They surrendered, bunch of them, armed forces of Ukraine. Remarkably, and you can see the video, they stand those people. You know what? 90% of them are over age of 50. And they are not from eastern areas. They are from Ivano-Frankivsk, which is, by the way, Western Ukraine, and the most fanatical, Nazis there. And many of them don't even speak proper Russian. They speak Ukrainian, because they don't know anything else. And when Apti Alaudinov communicates with them, and he obviously, those guys, he said, you are lucky now, And they said, did you shoot any of ours? They said, no. We started to dig trenches. And once we hear that Akhmat battalion and other people from the Russian units started to approach, immediately went on the, basically communication, said, guys, we want to surrender. And they did surrender. And when you look at this is, my gosh, we are looking now, today is the 14th, right?
Right.
In the last 2 weeks, we are looking by the very conservative Russian Minister of Defense estimates of the KIAs on the Ukrainian side are extremely conservative. I know why it is extremely conservative. That means on the lower end, we're looking at around another 10,500 KIAs just in the last 2 weeks. And so when you add this together, we're looking at more than 1 million at this stage casualties on Ukrainian side. That means about 350 probably now, KIAs alone, 1,000, probably more. And multiplied by 2 at least, it's the number of the wounded. And let me tell you, those wounds on the modern battlefield, no, this is not just some bullet entering you, into some, just flesh or getting lucky. No, you are being bombed into the utter submission by means of the high precision weapons and 152 millimeter artillery, let alone. That's why how you're going to calculate count KIAs when you are under the salvo of TOS S1. Basically, it's several football fields turned into the parking lot, glass parking lot. You will be burned completely alive. There will be no even bones left. So, right. And that's what we are talking about. And when you look at this, they are just basically depleted their mobilizational pool.
Larry, what do you think about this as far as how much more Ukraine can do from this place where we are right now?
Yeah, I've used the illustration from a Michael Keaton movie that's called Multiplicity. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it was about Michael Keaton was this architect or something, very busy, so he needed to duplicate himself, and he found a scientist who made a duplicate image of him. Except, as happens with every copy that you make, you get a degradation in terms of the actual substance and accuracy. Well, in the course of the movie, he ends up with a fourth copy of himself, and the fourth copy is retarded. So he's gone from being a highly intelligent organized to being retarded. That is what the Ukrainian army and military is becoming. It is now, and it's going to have to go into its fourth iteration. The first iteration was at the start of the special military operation, where it stood outside of Turkey as the largest army in Europe, and Russia essentially defeated it. And there were significant casualties among key leadership and non-commissioned officers. So that put Ukraine into a position where they had to start rebuilding. But the problem was they didn't have people lining up at recruitment offices saying, yeah, I'm going to fight for Ukraine. And the military bases that normally training would take place in Ukraine were not readily available because the Russians were targeting them. It could easily kill recruits. So they had to move a lot of that training outside of the country. And in the course of that, you get trained by 20 different countries with 20 different languages, with 20 different courses of instruction, which means, in the military, there's a concept called the uniform. And the uniform is worn so that everybody's like on the same basis and organized around the same principle. And so what they've created is a training system of disuniformity. And so the second iteration of that army lasted through Bakhmut, and it's destroyed. And they had built up this third element for this grand counteroffensive, but it was far less capable than the second generation, because the normal course is that by the time you become a lieutenant colonel or colonel, you've been in the army for 20 years. You've had a chance to learn by observing, learn by doing, working under a mentor. So because there's a lot of information to absorb, and you don't absorb it all at once. All of a sudden now they've got kids in their 20s that are being asked to command brigades. So it's a further degradation. And that third army is in the process now being wiped out, being destroyed to the point of being an effective fighting force. So now they've got to rebuild a fourth. Where are they going to get them? And let's just assume that they can go out and round up 300,000 people. Okay, where are they going to train them? And what are they going to train them with? And what weapon systems will they have to be able to apply to the field? And the training, if you get them actually properly trained, you're looking at a minimum of 18 months to 24 months. There is no way that Ukraine can do that while sustaining the attack that from Russia that is going to intensify, increase, and expand, I believe, in the coming weeks. So Ukraine is a dead country walking.
Larry, that was so brilliant. I actually understood this, and I have completely no idea about the military stuff. Thank you. No, it really painted the picture of the stages of this operation. So what do we really need now? Is it like more time? How this situation will finally end? I will ask this. What would it take in a normal sense, not the crazy sense they say, whatever it takes? What would it take for this to end? Because they don't want to negotiate peace. They keep on saying that they're going to send more weapons. All of it is being burned out, destroyed by Russia. So logically, what would it take for all of this to end?
Larry, yeah, go right ahead.
No, I was just going to say, go ahead, Andrei.
It's finding the ramp for the United States. That's when it's going to end. And latest statements by Jake Sullivan, of course, packaged into 90% of the BS, which he usually spews. But there was a 10%, which amounts to, and there are people who, on Russian side, they sit in SVR, FSB, GRU, who know their, behavioral patterns. They can analyze speech, The same Jake Sullivan, basically those 10% of what he was talking about was begging Russia now to find for the United States a face-saving procedure. But Russians are not in Russia anymore, because that's what many people do not understand. Sitting in the strategic defense, which Russia sits on right now, doesn't preclude you from the offensive actions at all. It doesn't preclude at all. I mean, you can actually be on the mode of the strategic defense, and it still will conduct a serious offensive actions. And what's going to happen, again, many people still do not understand that Russia right now, Russian armed forces are back to the Red Liman. How about they look at the map, So, they are back, remember a year ago, oh my God, the Ukrainians took 2,000 kilometers of territory. They didn't take it. Russians gave it to them and just retreated because there was no point of holding it. And so it's back, and when you look at this is, oh my God, actually Russia gained quite more territory in the last few months, and this kind of continues. And the only question which stands now, will Russia go for Kharkov? And if Russia will go for Nikolaev and Odessa, I think so. It's in the plans, But then again, Russians are extremely flexible because this is what happens when you have the escalation dominance. The West doesn't have escalation dominance. When West is on the last breath of what they could do. And who knows? If there, of course, Russia can go and finish off Ukrainian armed forces like next week, go on this big arrow offensive, and just destroy whatever goes, gets in the way. But
Andrei, can I ask you here?
Yeah.
So why they don't do it now? Because we've spoken many times, and I understood throughout this whole process, there was also an intention to weaken Europe financially. Okay,
Yeah.
we know it's not just about this operation, it's about other aspects that are more financial, economical aspects. So at this point, what is there left to destroy? Why they don't just, this is horrible, I'm saying this, but it's really like...
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Wars are fought not because to win some battle. Wars are fought for the political objectives. The main object of the war, quoting Clausewitz, is that the main object is to compel the enemy to do our will. Russia's will is very well described in the December 2021 ultimatum to NATO. And Russia, of course, fights with the considering and seeing the not just military outcomes, but political and economic outcomes. And if Europe doesn't, satisfy, and Europe is basically now a lunch for the United States, understandably, by the way, I'm not saying being cynical here. If I would have been an American statesman, that's what I would do. I would sacrifice Europe because the United States wants to eat too, United States in a deep, deep economic trouble. So how do you get out of this? Well, you eat Europe. You eat its industries, you eat its finances and all that. And Russians are sitting there waiting for the process of the political decomposition of NATO happens. And then, let's talk. But again, Europe is not a subject. Europe is an object. Yeah. There are only two subjects in this affair. It's Russia and the United States. And it's the pecking order. It's just simple as that. The rest, they will do as the United States tells them. And evidently, Kremlin right now lost any interest in negotiating with Europe. Negotiate with who? Look at the European leaders. If the United States has this demented guy who, well, at least we know some people behind him, they try to run him, just put their hand up his ass, and just do the puppet thing. But in Europe, who do you talk to? What? Annalena Baerbock, who doesn't know 180 degrees from 360 degrees? Macron is a boy, okay? He's nobody, as is France right now, And you look at this, Scholz, he is pathetic little prick, so show me. Or Sunak, or what? So Russia waits for the regime change in Europe, and it's coming.
Yeah. I think people are they're making a mistake about what's going on in Ukraine right now because there is not good media coverage. There's not the kind of media coverage that took place in Vietnam. So on the one hand, there's sort of the expectation of Operation Uranus and the rounds of Stalingrad, where you had a group sweep in from the north and sweep in from the south and envelop the Sixth Army. Modern Russia is not going to do that. I think what we're seeing is something more along the lines of what happened at the end of the Battle of Kursk in World War II, what were called these special operations or the sequential operations. So where the Soviet forces would move into one area, and then the Germans would rapidly try to move there, and then the Soviets would move to another area, and they would take and pick away all along that front instead of trying to mass their forces to bust through. And I think what we're seeing already is all along that 800-mile front or line of combat, Russia is now in a position where it can move forces in ways that it couldn't do a year ago because it did not have the trained strength in place. Meanwhile, Ukraine does not have the forces to respond to that. So it puts the Russian generals in a position where they can start moving and do feints, but they are progressing at many points along the front right now, the Russian troops. And that definition I shared with you earlier of a defeated army is an army that attacks and cannot penetrate the opponent's defensive lines, and it's an army that, when attacked, falls back. Hello, there's the definition of Ukraine right now. It has not advanced and penetrated in any significant part of the Russian defensive line. And when Russia does put soldiers in place and start an attack, the Ukrainians are not fighting them off and holding them back. They're retreating.
Thank you. I want to ask you one more question, but I just want to ask if we are still okay with time, because I don't want to take more than 1 hour of your time.
I have another 15 minutes. So
I'm good.
Larry, is it okay? One more question. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I would like to know your opinion, the role of Turkey in all of this.
I'm gonna make Andrei listen to my convoluted analogy, but I think it's appropriate. Do you remember the movie Titanic and the character played by Leonardo DiCaprio? Okay, just think of an older, uglier version of Leonardo DiCaprio. That's Erdogan. So here's Erdogan playing poker, and he gets a surprising winning hand and gets a ticket for the Titanic, not knowing that it's going to sink. And he goes running desperately to get on the ship. Okay, he's on this ship and it's going to sink. And remember what happened when it sunk and what happened to Jack. He was in the water and he ended up going beneath the waves. That, I think, is an excellent metaphor, analogy for what Turkey is doing now. They're playing a double game, and they don't have the charm or good looks of Leonardo DiCaprio.
Larry, sorry, can I just say, so Kate Winslet is Putin?
Say what?
Is Kate Winslet Putin?
Oh, no.
No. Russia is iceberg. Putin is iceberg. That's so.
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
Larry's analogy is perfect. And again, do not forget, Turkey is Erdogan. He is a trader, not traitor. He's a trader. He trades for his own interest, which he's supposed to. Nobody argues that Turkey shouldn't follow its own. For example, Turkey has a legitimate security concerns, for example, with Kurds. Okay, so nobody says that it's not legitimate, because indeed there are issues there which need to be resolved. And but the point is, of course, Turkey's economy is in shambles. Okay, and the only thing they can get now, because they are kind of part of the Western circle, and is the bailout loan, which will actually enslave Turkish economy even more, but it's from the International Monetary Fund. And in this particular case, he has to communicate with Biden, because International Monetary Fund is essentially de facto American organization. So, and he needs this loan desperately. And do not forget, as it was discussed yesterday on Vera, Larry, Ray, and me, the number of the dead from the earthquake in Turkey is actually, by different estimates, is way more than 100,000. It's horrendous tragedy. And can you imagine the destruction which it brought? Some cities have been flattened. So Erdogan desperately needs money now. So what do? You go to your former master, which is United States, and you talk to them. So it's a short-term thing, and Larry is absolutely correct. He's running to
I always say my last question, but I want to say this, because I have you here, and who else to ask if not you guys? Is there any chance that Turkey can turn against Russia militarily in the future?
I doubt it.
It would be suicidal.
Suicidal, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that they are a competent army. I'm not suggesting that they're not a competent army, but it's the kind of thing that would be devastating for them. And Russia is not. Yeah, Russia. They would have to attack Russia for that to happen.
Yeah, if they want to lose Bosphorus and Dardanelles, then sure, why not?
But that IMF loan means that they are going to be completely
In that,
slaves.
yeah, in
And
absolutely.
that means, right, Andrei, like another puppet. So whatever
Yeah.
I say US, but I don't mean the country and the nation and the people. I love people in the United States everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm talking certain individuals, the bankers and all of this,
Yeah.
who will be telling them, okay, Turkey, now you do this, now you do that, because that's the rule. That's what we want now. So that's why I'm asking this, because how far they can go with those orders.
Yeah, Anya, you need to talk to incomparable Michael Hudson, one of the most brilliant economists on our time, because he will elaborate on this in the most professional, outstanding, logical, and fact-based manner. But yes, it's all about the fact that enslaving financially all those people. It's like, what the hell happened to Argentina? Filled with talented, smart people, majority of them, overwhelming majority of them of the European descent, Spanish and Italian. You have those people who are supposed at least to be on the level of at least Spain or Italy, But what happened? And again, what happened was the fact that there are dead news around their necks by the International Monetary Fund. And it's a never-ending vicious circle of taking out the loans to pay for the previous loan while selling out your natural resources. And it's pretty much stable, so to speak, scheme, which worked for the United States and to a degree to Europe for a while. This time is over. And of course, now we're looking at the real de-dollarization. Look at the BRICS. 2/3 of the world wants to be in the BRICS now.
Yes, Andrei, I will just end. Yes, sorry, Larry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to underscore what Andrei is bringing up. What's most likely to happen here is Turkey has made a really bad bet because they're betting on the IMF to still be the dominant financial force in the international world, when in fact that whole international order is breaking down and changing, with BRICS emerging as really an alternate universe of financial opportunity. And just the wealth of the various countries involved may make it just to a point that working with the West will no longer actually make sense, because undergirding the Western economy is really an illusion, or it's built upon a dream. It is largely financialized. It's not based upon industrial production. And I can speak about this firsthand, looking back 50 years ago when I was in high school. And so when I graduated from high school at the age of 18, my father worked at the local steel plant as a maintenance foreman. That was called Sheffield Steel, later Armco Steel. My other buddies from high school, one father worked at Standard Oil refinery. Other fathers worked at 2 General Motors plants that were in the Kansas City Independence area. One of those plants called Leeds. Others worked at Bendix Corporation. Others worked at Alice Chalmers, which is a manufactured farm harvesters and such. All of these were manufacturing jobs that the people that went to them, they got paid a good wage, they had a good retirement, they didn't need to have a college education. Those are all gone now. So kids coming out of high school, they don't have these kinds of jobs that require some skill with machinery and skill with production. They just have to say, how would you like your hamburger? Would that be rare or medium rare? How many fries would you like? That is the Western economy. That's what it's become. The same in Europe. And what you see by contrast is that industrial capability is intact in Russia, in China, in India, and they're going to dominate the world, not the United States.
Thank you for bringing this up, Larry. I agree. And the same in Poland. What happened after, 1989, how they destroyed all those factories.
Yeah.
And exactly. They don't focus on the production, the skill, the craft, but
Just
on
give you
some mumbo jumbo,
Yeah.
nothing, do nothing, just floating. I mean, it's not funny, but really just floating people that's easy to control. Where they float.
Just give you one Polish twist here. Today, the Russian training ship Petraeus, I actually sailed on it in 1982. It's a pretty old ship, but it's extremely well designed and it has been updated. It's a 7,000 tons displacement training ship for the naval cadets of naval academies. It entered today to Cuba. It moored itself, dropped the anchor at what's the name, Santiago de Cuba or something like that. I mean, not far from. Larry would know everything. So guess what? This ship with two other ships, Smolny class, they have been built at Polish shipyards.
Wasn't it Gdansk?
Yep, they were built at Gdansk together with the half of the present Russian Navy amphibious naval amphibious component of those BDK. So they were all Polish made. We used to have the Unitra, excellent Polish electronics with those equalizers, beautiful, classic. It's all gone from Poland now. But still, guess what? That ship is still sailing. Can you believe that? That's how well it was made. You can look it up. Just dial down Petraeus ship, and you will see the history of those ships. I sailed on this around Scandinavia, through the Baltic Sea, into the White Sea. It was a very long range, 8,000 nautical miles there, cruise for the young navigators at that time in '82. Obviously, we have been harassed by NATO during our Baltic passages. But point is, this is all Polish made. So some Polish ships are still serving with Russian Navy.
Thank you for saying this. I just want to add here, because this made me a little bit sentimental. The town where I come from, Szczecin in Poland, had one of the biggest harbors. We actually built ships there as well, in Szczecin and Gdańsk, and that place is completely destroyed right now. Actually, if you drive right next to it, you see it's empty. The grass is growing through,
It's a shame. It's a complete shame. Yeah.
It's a shame, because it was providing jobs, and not just jobs, but the pride. It's a harbor town, and it's absolutely heartbreaking how many families, how many lives have been affected after it was closed. But I want to say this, as far as inflation, and then we end here, because just 2 days ago I recorded a video about inflation in Russia that was 2.3, 2.5%, and then Argentina, and you just said it today. Argentina, as I remember correctly, was over 300% inflation. I think it's the highest in the world right now in Argentina. Yeah. That's what happened.
And in Turkey, by the way, too. Turkey suffers. Lira, Turkish lira is just screwed.
I want to say, yes, thank you so much for joining me, because we went over an hour.
No. Anya, I typed the name of the ship in the chat, on the comments, and you can look it up and you can do the search.
I will. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, please, Larry, please.
I was just going to say about Argentina. So I lived in Argentina from the end of 1983 through 85. That was during the time of hyperinflation, when it was 1,000% annually. So the Argentines have been used to this kind of suffering for years. I don't know how they get through it, how they survive it. But it is, anybody that's ever lived in that kind of inflation, it literally destroys the middle class. The poor are always poor. The very wealthy, they can get through it. But it's those in the middle that get crushed and destroyed. And it's awful.
It's absolutely true. And I want to say again, very, very grateful for both of you coming today on my channel. And I'm enormously, humbled by your expertise, because I'm learning, as you speak, I'm learning from you a lot of things I don't know. And it's good to have two such a great experts who explain in such a way that actually I understand. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you so much.
Pleasure,
and it's important to bring those topics, because not many people do, and I think many people could do it. All it takes is start your YouTube channel and start talking about it and bring the right people, and that's how you win this info war, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you so much. All the links to Andrei Martyanov and Larry Johnson you find down below this live. And to everyone who donated today, I very, very much appreciate. I'm very grateful for your support, guys, and also to comments and viewers. Thank you so much. All the best to you guys, and I see you soon in the next video. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Bye, Larry. Bye, Anya. Talk to you later. Larry, talk to you definitely. Okay.